Hey everybody, this is the Sliders Review, and I'm here today to talk to you about Wednesday, Season 2, Part 1, Episodes 1 through 4. So, it took 2 long years just for Season 2 to come out. I don't know what the heck is going on with streaming, but there's a lot of shows that are literally taking 2 years per season to come, well, between seasons to come out. This is really unfounded. Like back in the day, you would have like 20 something episodes, and your next season will come out the very next year. Now you have a shorter episode list, anywhere between 6 to 8, 10, or 13, and now it's taking 2 years between seasons. And with 2 years, you would assume they would have came out with the most amazing thing ever. They did not. Season 1 of Wednesday was a phenomenon. It blew everybody away. It was #1 for like several weeks, if not several months and everything. It was like a firestorm. Everybody was talking about Wednesday. It was constantly trending like on Twitter the very first day and everything. There was so much merch, even though NECA still can't get Jenna Ortega's face right. I don't understand. They've had like 3, 4 attempts and they still can't do it. But it was a phenomenon. It just blew the internet up. From like the viral dance scene to like her prom dress to like, the way she Jenna Ortega acted in this, how she didn't blink, how the characters looked like they were somewhat ripped out of like the comic and everything. And all the guest appearances and Christina Ricci and all that. Season 1 was phenomenal. Season 2 feels like a cluster blank. There is too much going on in just 4 episodes because they decided to split the season in half. 4 episodes per part. The first part came out this August, depending on what day I upload this, a few days ago. The second part comes out the first week of September. That's stupid. That is stupid. Why are you going to break it up like that for? Season 1 dropped all in the same day. They did this before with the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, and people hated that. They're doing it with Stranger Things, and people hate that. Netflix, people hate when you break your season up into 2 parts and spread them out for like a whole month. Because of that, you only get to watch 4 episodes, and they have 2 completely... Well, okay, here's the thing. There are several storylines that are going on in the first part. One storyline is going to trickle over into the second part. So for the most part, the overarching like big thing of who is stalking Wednesday and who wants to kill Enid, that gets settled at the end of the 4th episode. But here's the problem with this. The killer is only in 2 episodes for the amount of probably 5 minutes total, maybe 8 if you really want to stretch it. But for the most part, they're very, very, very briefly in the first part. 2 episodes. That's it. Like anywhere between 5 to 8 minutes of entire screen time, and you never ever suspect that person is the killer because they're barely in the show. And instead they give you red herring after red herring after red herring, only to make you disappointed. So when you find out who the killer is, it's super rushed, and the killer dies very quickly. It's stupid. It was pointless. There was no point in even having that. Also, what was pointless was bringing Christina Ricci back. Don't get me wrong. I love myself some Christina Ricci. And I was happy when she showed back up. But for what they did to her, I'm just like, they could have just left her out. Then they brought in Billy Piper. That was pointless as well. Now, I love myself some Billy Piper. She can sing very well, and she's a phenomenal actress. She's barely in the show, and she's a red herring. All she does in the show when she's not being a red herring, she's just singing. Well, what was this supposed to do? Restart like her music career or something? So it makes me wonder what they're gonna do with Lady Gaga in part two. What was also pointless? Reintroducing Pugsley. His storyline really doesn't have anything to do with this first part. Like, 'cause here's the thing, all these other storylines they got going on with Pugsley, his storyline, they had to find something for him to do because they added him to Nevermore. So they had to find something for him to do. They gave him a zombie storyline that is very similar to that, well, kind of similar to R.L. Stein's The Haunting Hour, that best friend episode with the zombie. He finds a zombie and he feeds it, and then it gets loose. It starts eating people's brains. He recaptures it. It gets loose again, and they tried to cram it into the big story arc of like this whole first part, but it just didn't work. Those people still could have died some other way. Um, they brought in the love interest that turns to that giant monster dude. I forget his name right now. They brought him back, and it's kind of like, okay, well, why exactly are you bringing him back? There's no real storyline going on with him. Oh, it has something to do with his father. Oh, his father is now dead. It was pointless bringing his father back. Oh, it's tying into the main story arc. But why? Oh, the main killer story arc is very stupid. And so he gets freed at the end. I guess he might show up for part two. Who knows? The Black Siren girl, I forget her name. Her storyline was pointless in the first part. They basically had, just like with the Pugsley thing, they had her go off in her own story arc and doing her own thing, and somehow they had to cram that into the overarching story arc, but it doesn't really mesh that well. So part of that's going to be in part two, and it's just kind of like it was pointless. Not only that, but the black dude and his father, they're not even in this season. I guess it was too much DEI for Tim Burton because you know how he is with black characters, the whole Beetlejuice Soul Train thing. I guess they couldn't have 5 black characters in this season, so they had to get rid of 2, and they got rid of the men, so of course. I'm like, really? Because there's a line Morticia says that makes you now wonder. Okay, yeah, this season is very female focused and everything. I mean, extremely female focused and stuff. Because Morticia literally tells somebody, Gomez doesn't know this, but I'm the one who wears the pants in the family and gets everything going and blah 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 like that. I'm like, what the what? Like, why would you do that to him for? Because why did they say that? Well, Morticia's in this season a heck of a lot more. In fact, she's crammed into both major story arcs that happens in part 1, and that's gonna happen in part 2. I knew they was gonna pull that crap. See, here's the thing. This show needs to figure out what the freak nuts it wants to be. Does this want to be a solo Wednesday show where everybody that shows up is her supporting cast that supports her, but do not go off on their own storyline? Or do they want this to be an Addams Family show where everybody's just doing their own thing and, it's just like the classic stuff? Or do they want this to be about Wednesday and her friends from her students from the academy? They need to pick one. Shoving all 3 together in 4 episodes just did not work. It did not work at all. And I remember at the end of the first season, they said Catherine Zeta-Jones was going to be in the second season a heck of a lot more. I was like, crap, I knew what they was gonna do. They was gonna take the focus off of Wednesday and start putting it on her and possibly the family. Now, like I said, what was it, 2 years ago? Look, I can go either way. If you want to make this a Wednesday solo show, I will rock and roll. If you want to make this an Addams Family show, I will definitely rock and roll because I love the Addams Family. I've seen the first two movies. I've never seen the direct-to-DVD movie. I could not finish that. I've seen the 90s cartoon. I've seen the Fox Family, the new Addams Family show. I've seen the CGI Addams Family movie. I love myself some Addams Family. So if they wanted to just do the whole Addams Family thing, then yo, I will rock and roll. But Wednesday is my favorite because of Christina Ricci. So when I found out this was going to be a solo Wednesday show, oh, I was rocking and I was a rolling. But here's the thing. Originally, they pitched it as Wednesday has psychic powers. She uses it to like solve crimes. I'm like, that's weird, but whatever. We'll see what that's about. Then all of a sudden, they added in this Nevermore Academy thing. And that's what we got in season 1. When you watch season 2, it feels more like that original premise of Wednesday doing like, the detective stuff. Yeah, the school is still there, but barely and everything. Now, with the whole 2-year span, with the whole them introducing the family, also, I don't like what they did with Enid. They made her seem like a skank and a cheater and everything because the love interest she had in the first season, man, she ain't even paying that guy no attention because she got a new love interest. And that's kind of what her thing is. Remember she was with the black dude, but then the black dude, like, I think, like, lied to her or something like that. Or, wait, what's the black girl with the black dude? Somebody was with him. And then he lied, so she went with the other dude with the snakes on his head. And now she's like, screw him and everything. And she doesn't give a real reason as to why she broke up with him over the summer. And why I keep saying, like, they got rid of the two black dudes in that line from Morticia. And this is a very female-focused show. The guy with the Gorkin dude with the snakes on his head, he's all like, look, I know his Gorkins are a little slow, but when exactly did you decide you didn't want to be with me no more in the summer? I'm like, so they're making him sound like he's stupid now and everything? And I'm just like, why are you doing this and stuff? This is what's alienating a lot of guys from television shows because of how they write their female characters and what they make their male characters say. Male characters are either scumbag, they're weak, or like something. You know what I'm saying? You can show it. You just don't have to always say it. You know what I'm saying? But there's another factor in here which I kind of figured was kind of going to be a bad season. When I saw the trailer for season 2, it did not impress me. And when I heard that, Catherine was going to be in here more, it did not impress me. When I heard, like, Gina Ortega said there wasn't going to be no love triangle this season, I'm all like, oh, that was kind of interesting in season 1. I think she said something about she just doesn't see Wednesday doing all that lovey-dovey stuff because how she is and she doesn't like it, but then she decided to do it. That was good for her character because, she's not for lovey-dovey stuff, but then all of a sudden, like, bam, she actually fell in love. And then I started to get worried because of the Jenna Ortega factor. Now, look, like I said before, I'm a huge fan of Jenna Ortega. I've been a fan since Disney Channel Stuck in the Middle. I am very proud of her for moving on up until, like, the movie she's been in and stuff like that. And this Wednesday show. However, Jenna Ortega is starting to irritate people because I've said this before. Every time she opens her mouth, she tends to piss somebody off. Now, yes, this is Jenna Ortega. Yeah, I know. She looks a little different. She bleached her eyebrows. No, they are not shaving off their bleach. Yes, she lost a lot of weight. And she smoked cigarette that giving her that thin appearance. Why is she doing this to herself? The heck of I know. This seems to be kind of like a trend in young Hollywood. Ariana Grande is doing the same thing. Lost a lot of weight, bleached her eyebrows, Got a little work done, and it's just like this is a weird trend. Kate Beckinsale lost a lot of weight because of depression and everything. Well, she's really sad because of what's going on with her parents. What's her name? I can't say it. Jeanette McCurdy, I think that's her name, from iCarly. She's lost a lot of weight lately, and it's just kind of like, what is this weird trend going on? But anyways, Jenna, she doesn't seem like she's happy being on this show. Every time she mentions this show, she's always complaining about something. And it's all like she's sounding very ungrateful. It's like people would love to be where she's at right now and be the lead of this show. And she's just kind of like, this gets on my nerves. I don't like this. I don't like that. Blah, 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 blah. 2 years ago, she snuck into, like, I guess the writer's room and changed something on the script. She said she felt like Wednesday would not have done that. And so that kind of lit the internet up where people's all like, yo, you're not supposed to do that. That's kind of going to make people not trust you and want to hire you and stuff. Then it got bad because that was during a writer's strike. And this one famous writer literally said, well, since Jenna Ortega is a writer now, why don't she come out here and protest with us and everything? She was already starting to piss people off with that. Then that viral dance from season 1 that she choreographed and everything that blew up the internet, she regrets doing that. She doesn't like being the center of like attention and stuff. And she doesn't like the love triangle that happened in season 1. Now here's the thing that she might not know. Wednesday has always fallen in love with people and stuff. All the way back in that second movie that came out with Christina Ricci, she fell in love with the guy. Then in the new Addams Family television show, she fell in love with the guy. And it's interesting because both those versions are very much like clone versions of themselves. Every Wednesday character is literally a clone version of the Christina Ricci one. The ones that came before Christina Ricci was just regular, normal girls. Like in the old black and white show, she was just like a little kid. Then in the cartoon, the first cartoon, she was a little bit more like sad, weary, and a little sarcastic. But then in the second cartoon series, she was very sarcastic. But every version has been that mean stare, trying to torture people, sharp whip, sassy mouth type person. That's how she's been written ever since Christina Ricci. So when you see this mean looking girl who's always trying to like murder people or whatnot and doesn't take crap from nobody and all this other stuff, it's interesting to see her let her guard down and fall in love because she acts completely different depending on who's writing it. In the first one, she was still herself, but intrigued. In the television show, she just acted like a dainty little girl. It was just something completely she was just like didn't understand why she was acting this way and stuff. So it's okay for her to have a love triangle, but Jenna Ortega doesn't want her to have one. But she still kind of has one this season because so many fans have shipped her and Enid and want them to be in a couple relationship. They kind of played on this season because Enid literally says that Wednesday, because this one person asked her, why are you even friends with her and y'all are so different and y'all are getting on each other's nerves this season? And she said, she's her Wednesday is her dark tunnel in her light or something like that. And talking about she can't live without her. And I'm all like, that sounds a whole lot like I Know What You Did Last Summer, Helen and Julie car scene talk, where it seems like they're more than just friends. They even introduce a brand new character who goes invisible that causes conflict between those two and makes it seem like another love triangle, but in the terms of friends and stuff. So when I started hearing all this stuff coming from like Jenna and everything, and the last thing she said about this freaking show that she recently just said, she doesn't like wearing her school uniform. because it feels like she's trapped as being like a teenager or something like that. I can't remember the exact words of what she said, but wearing that school uniform for Nevermore just makes her look like a teenager and blah blah. And that's because Wednesday is a teenager. Jenna is a grown adult, but she's playing a teenager. So she's at an academy and she's wearing a uniform. What is her problem and everything? I don't get it. And then when you watch this season, yes, it is at school, but it doesn't, they do stuff away from school. Because they introduced the Adam, or reintroduced the Adams family, now the time is split between the Adams family house and the school. And it's kind of like, why are they going back and forth over and over? And that's because Jenna gets to wear normal Wednesday type clothes when she's doing all this other stuff, like a camp scene and stuff. But it's like they're not even having Wednesday dressed like Wednesday anymore. In season 1, we got to see Wednesday in her iconic black dress with the white collar. Love that look and everything. Now, anybody knows anything about the Addams family, they wear the same clothes every day. That's just how they are. They're from a comic book strip. And so, like, that black dress, we only get to see it like once and very briefly. Why? Because she's in her uniform for the rest of the season. And when she's not in her uniform, she's in like her sports gear, like fencing, and like in her room playing the cello. And she's just wearing like pants and a shirt and like a jacket or something like that. And it's kind of like, okay, that's not how I'm used to seeing her, but it's a nice little look, you know what I'm saying? Then they had to do that little Catwoman thing with the boats and everything, so that she got to change it up then. This season, she never wears her iconic dress. Instead, they have her in so many weird different outfits that when you look at her, y'all like, that's not Wednesday Addams. Wednesday would never wear that. She would never wear like a leather vest and like, combat boots and well probably the combat boots. I think she did that last season, but like the pants and the slits in the pants, and I'm just like, that is not her. Not only is that not her, but Morticia, she wears her iconic dress for one time in the first episode, and after that she's wearing a variety of different dresses. Okay, to kind of try and change it up to give her own style, but it doesn't look like the iconic dress, but it's kind of okay for this version. Then on the camping episode, Morticia has pigtails and she's wearing like pants and like a shirt, and it's kind of like, what the heck is she wearing? That is not Morticia Addams. And don't even get me started on Grandmama. This version is like the comic. It's not Grandmama Addams, it's Grandmama Fump. Because that's Morticia's maiden name, so they made Grandmama Morticia's mother. And Grandmama doesn't look nothing like she does in any version I've ever seen. Grandmama has always been short, plump, wild, crazy hair, and she looks like a hag witch. This version looks like an older, attractive, glamorous looking woman and everything. And I'm just kind of like, that is not Grandmama, and she's not even acting like Grandmama. And I'm just kind of like, they're changing this now. And I got curious. I'm just like, I bet she's either a co-producer or executive producer. I bet you anything. Because with the changes in this season and like stuff Jenna doesn't like, I'm like, I bet she's a co-producer. So I went to Wikipedia and bam, she's an executive producer on this show. Now, I've said before, the best way to, if you're a celebrity, especially if you're a young celebrity, you become an executive producer. That's smart. That's what the former Jessie Disney girl did. Can't think of her name right now, but she was on Jessie. She was on Bunked. She played Emma, and she's now on School Spirits. On School Spirits, she's an executive producer. However, if you're just gonna nitpick and do what you don't like on the show and do what you want to do on the show, then you don't need to be an executive producer. And when I started hearing that she rewrote like a script and she doesn't like this storyline and she doesn't like her dance and she doesn't like that, I knew she was gonna tip her little toes in season 2 being an executive producer and start changing things around. And she did. Because when you're an executive producer, you're putting in money into the show, you get a little sway power and everything. And sway she did. Like it had to have been that and everything because we know there are things about this show she does not like and she wants changed in this show. And I'm just kind of like, look, if you ain't happy with this show, leave or something. Like, just leave. Like, do your movie projects because I said it before. She was the it girl of Hollywood. She came off Disney Channel. She was making some big waves and big movie franchises. Then she had her own show and then she was getting more movies. But she started to get typecast. And fans have noticed that. And fans are getting tired of seeing her pop up in movies as the angsty, moody, rude teenager and everything. Because that's who she's been since she was in Scream and everything. Or technically that's who she's kind of, well, yeah, Scream. And she hasn't left that like persona and everything. And with her movie career not doing so well because she left Scream because of her co-star getting fired and everything. So she decided just to leave that franchise when she was co-lead and everything. She's now part of the Beetlejuice franchise. I did not like that second movie. And her other movies have either underperformed, bombed, or flopped. And now she has this television show and she keeps acting like she's ungrateful. So she is no longer the it girl of like Hollywood and everything. And, you know, and I do respect her opinion. 'Cause like I said before, I am a fan of hers and everything. But I feel like she's making some bad decisions in her career and everything. And, you know, like somebody asked her, would you ever join the MCU, the Marvel movie? She's all like, oh, I done that. Iron Man 3. They cut all my, they cut majority of my scenes. They cut my lines, and I don't even think I was credited. So I've already done that. And so she said it in a very sassy kind of way. And in Hollywood, you know, you can't always be that blunt, you know, because you never know when another opportunity is gonna come. Like the MCU could be all like, yeah, we want you back and we want you to play this superhero. Well, now they're probably pissed because she shaded them and everything. I mean, when her lines got cut, she was an itty bitty little girl. She was like, what, 7, 8, 9 or something like that? She played the president's daughter and it was like a small little scene in the Iron Man movie. So it wasn't that big of a deal anyway. So it's kind of like, why are you going to piss them off by saying this crap? And it's this young Hollywood thing of they need a PR team. Renee Rapp, she desperately needs a PR team manager type person, which Renee just said they tried to get her one twice and she rejected it. She said she ain't here to hear that crap. And it's like, because Renee Rapp, like they say, whatever blunt thing is on her mouth. And that's gonna alienate people. And she has said things that have alienated people. She's pissed off straight people. She's pissed off gay people and everything. A famous gay, like she gave some advice about if you have a homophobic parent and who doesn't accept you, what should you do? She gave advice. I'm not, it's kind of bad, kind of not. You never know. The parent might change, you know what I'm saying? A very famous openly gay actor came out online and said, do not take this advice and everything. Because young Hollywood just says what's on their mind and everything. So back to this show, I had to go off on a little tidbit. So yeah, I feel like in my bones, Jenna had a little bit to do with what's going on in season 2. It does not feel like it did in season 1. Season 1 had a good blend of darkness and quirkiness and romance and intrigue. This season, it has the intrigue, it has the quirkiness, and it has the dark grittiness. but it doesn't have a nice balanced flow because there are way too many characters this season. I mean, Morticia is living on the campus and everything. I mean, they need to figure out if they want to be a Wednesday show, an Addams Family show, or an Academy show. They can't have all three, you know what I'm saying? Because it's just not working. Now, don't get me wrong, there are some very funny bits in this season. Jenna's comedic timing is way better than season one. But there were just some things in season one that was just so much more joyful. Like when she went to that old village town dressed like a pilgrim, like that was like fun stuff. You know what I'm saying? When she snuck out of school to go to her therapy session, then she snuck out of therapy session, that was fun. Here is none of that stuff. There is no fun quirkiness type stuff going on, really. Episode one is the best one. That's like the most like hilarious one, directed by Tim Burton. The second episode is pretty funny and pretty good. The third episode is pointless, but it has some funniness to it. The fourth episode was just kind of lame, in my opinion. It was very rushed. They tried, like, how you gonna have all these story arcs going on in 4 episodes? That was rushed. And so stuff that happened in that episode is going to trickle over to part two. I'm not even interested into what happens in part two, to tell you the truth. I don't care about Ophelia, Bump, Fump. Morticia's sister and everything, because I'm not even sure if the girl that they rescued is even her sister or not, because she never said her name. And yes, Morticia does have an Ophelia sister. It's been in almost every incarnation there was, almost all of them, you know. The old black and white television show, the animated movie, the new television show, like the comedy, like you name it, you know what I'm saying? But she doesn't have blonde hair, and so far she's not perky like she is in all those other versions. And so, so I really don't care about that storyline. Like I really, really don't. And I'm still trying to figure out what race is Morticia and Grandmama. Either they are white actresses playing Latinos, or they're white actresses playing white characters, or they're white characters playing white Spaniards. I'm really confused on this because because I'll explain that a little bit later. But yeah, Uncle Fester is supposed to be a Latino, but he's still like a white Jewish dude playing a Latino. But Uncle Fester is hilarious this season, way more than last season. Oh my God, I can't. Now I want that Fester spinoff. I want to see him rob banks. This man has like 100 passports and different identities and stuff. The man plays women. Like he used this, he saw this one woman he was attracted to, so he started making out with her in a insane asylum. Then Wednesday needed him to get something from her, like a key pass or something like that. So he gets it from her, and then as he's leaving, he's all like, "Out of all the women I've used, you was my favorite one." He makes out with her and just walks off into the darkness. I'm like, oh my God. Oh my God, I've never seen Fester act that way before, but it's interesting because it's like crazy and stuff. Christopher Lloyd does appear in this. I'm glad they're still getting alumni from the original Addams Family movie, but his role in here is weird, and it's just really weird. I guess it's because he's old now and he can't do much. Like, you don't really see him stand up no more. Every time you see this man, even if he's on screen acting, he's sitting down, like he was in Star Wars and stuff. The Mandalorian, he's just sitting down. And it reminds me of Betty White. Betty White was always sitting down when she got older before she passed and everything. And he is very up there in age and stuff. I still wish they could have got Angelica Houston to play Grandmama. It would make sense. She's older, she's short, she's plump. You know, she could play like Grandmama. I wish they would bring in people from the new Addams Family. Like, I really wish they would, because people have forgotten about that, and I don't want that show to be forgotten. Okay, so I think I figured out their race finally when it comes to the Addams family. They are, in fact, Cantillean, like it's been stated in the old black and white show. Now, what I got confused last time is that I thought Spain were Latinos. They're more like white Spaniards, Hispanics, and everything. And so, like, this is why a lot of the Addams family, like mannerisms and stuff they say, tends to be like in Spanish nature and stuff. Also, like in some of their names, like even though Ophelia is the sister of Morticia, it's more of a Greek name, but there is a Latino pronunciation of Ophelia and everything, which they kind of don't really say like in this way. So they do have that Spanish speaking stuff, but they're more like white Spaniards. It's just for this show, they've kind of swapped it in a way to where you have like Jenna and like I think the dude who plays her brother and father, they're like more Mexican. And I guess on like Morticia's side, they're more like the Spaniard type and stuff, because they say that Morticia used to always fence her sister because her mother would pin them against each other. It is really confusing, especially because a lot of Americans assume that Spain is like a Latino country when it's actually not and stuff. It's confusing. So Miles Miller and Alfred they return as like showrunners and writers. I believe they're the duo behind Smallville. Tim Burton returns as director for 2 episodes in part 1. And you can see a little bit of his artistic style when talking about the zombies' backstory. This is something fans have wanted Tim Burton to go back to. However, he hasn't made a full movie like this stop motion in many, many years. So this season, Wednesday is determined to save Enid's life. She had a premonition. So during the summer, Wednesday has been spending her entire time honing her psychic ability and stuff, her premonitions. She's been reading Goody Adams' like book, and like has like increased and intensified her power. And this is causing her to bleed like black blood from her eyes. She has no idea why this is happening, and she will not tell nobody. Along with Thing, they've been traveling around the country solving crimes and stuff. The premise of the originality of this show from season 1 that they slightly abandoned, but kept a little bit. And so this brings her to a serial killer that's like a scalper and everything, who also makes all these dolls. And so like this is played by Joel Osment. And I thought he would have had a bigger role, but he doesn't. Basically, he kidnaps her only for Thing to beat the crap out of him. And so then she scalps him off screen. And ironically, she gives Enid one of his dolls and everything that he has in the room where she was chained up. So it turns out she has a stalker, and she has to try to figure out this season who is stalking her and why. This later leads her to when she touches Enid to find out that Enid comes to her and talking about, it's because of you I died and blah, blah, blah. So she had a premonition that somehow this stalker is going to get to Wednesday by getting to Enid. And so she tries everything she can to prevent her death, but not sure how exactly this happens. After a blow up with her mom and everything, she takes Goody's book, which helps Wednesday somehow harness her power. Apparently now, if she doesn't have the book in her possession or near her, then apparently she can't use her premonition powers. But it was never stated like that in the last season. So I don't know why they retconned that. But anyways, most likely, I'm assuming Morticia probably did a spell that prevents her from doing that, but who really knows, you know what I'm saying? And so after she finds out who's been stalking her to get the Enid, it turns out that she actually had a different stalker. So she has two stalkers this season, and one is just an obsessed fan because she became very popular after the last semester and everything. But this newer stalker really doesn't have anything per se to do with her. I don't know why this killer necessarily is coming after her and everything. It's very, 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 very rushed. And so let's get into some character bios. So Yoko, who barely had anything to do in the first season, her along with the two black dudes are no longer in the show. They got written out. I don't know why. Maybe the studio told them to roll back on DEI. Maybe the creators couldn't think of anything for them going forward. Or maybe Tim Burton's like, too much DEI. You know how I am. Now, Xavier, played by Percy Hines White, we all know he ain't coming back. His character went to Switzerland to study over there. The reason why the actor is no longer in the show is because of the simple fact he got Me Too and he is partially canceled. Basically, there's some type of sexual misconduct going on with him and he denies it. Who knows if it's real or not, but he ain't in the show no more. Which now, he talked about his grandmother in the first season, and people speculated that his grandmother was friends with Grandmama. We will never truly now know unless they decide just to write it in. Ajax is a Gorg who was a love interest of Enid in season 1, and she basically dumped him without his knowledge over the summer because she fell in love with Bruno. Basically, he just pines after her, looks sad and everything, and that's about it for him. Bruno is a werewolf, and he's literally just the new love interest and boyfriend to that of Enid. That's it. Nothing else to him. Imadora, played by Billie Piper, is the new music teacher at the school, and she's a werewolf. And she's a red herring, and that's literally it. They wasted her time. Also, she speaks with an American accent, which is strange because I've never heard Billie speak with an American accent before because she's British. Eugene still does the whole bug thing. He has bees. He does not hang out with Wednesday this season. And in fact, I couldn't even recognize him because the actor got so much older and has lost some weight because 2 years have passed. I didn't even know it was the same guy. But this time they paired him with Pugsley. And at first he acts like he wants nothing to do with Pugsley whatsoever, hurting Pugsley's feelings, but then later becomes his friend when the whole zombie storyline comes into play, only to get scared and not want to have anything to do with the zombie. Other than that, he has nothing to do. I can't remember if he had a love interest or not in the first season, but if he did, that is gone now. Tyler Dad's friend. So Tyler Dad's friend is some mystery character that's investigating these two people. And then all of a sudden he gets attacked by birds. These birds are very creepy. And on the right side of their face, it's like all red and blotchy and stuff. And this discolored like red eye. Taylor's father is no longer the sheriff, and he needs Wednesday's help in order to like help him solve something, his friend's murder, and something that has to do with like Tyler. But who's ever controlling the birds, who's an aviary with special powers, killed him with the birds and everything. Tyler is still as pissed off as ever and still hates Wednesday. He's in an insane asylum where he's chained to like a wall. And apparently his father came to visit him one time only for him to beast out and everything. Apparently Laura still has control over him. So over there in the insane asylum, they're hoping to keep him apart from her so her control has no like effect on him. When he does, however, meet up with her, he's very angry and tries to choke and kill her, only for her to say, you know, if he was to kill her because she's the master, then something bad will happen to him. Now, towards the end in the last episode, he does stab Laura and everything and tosses her, but we don't know if she actually died or not. Then he attacked Wednesday and escaped the insane asylum. He literally has nothing to do, but he'll probably play a bigger role in season 2. Laurel, played by Christina Ricci, the original Wednesday Addams. Well, not original, the original one from the movies. And so she is shockingly back, and I'm so happy to see Christina back. Yeah, but it's because oh my God, dude, my favorite Wednesday Addams and stuff, the one that started it all for me and stuff. And so she's back. So I was curious to know what exactly they're gonna do with her. Well, Dr. Rachel, who works at the insane asylum, brought her over, transferred her over to deal with that of Tyler. But, Laurel now sees Tyler as like, her son, even though she's really not. And she's constantly calling him that and act like she actually has loving feelings for him and stuff. But anyway, he wants nothing to do with her. So she wants to work closely with him, and for whatever dumb reason, the doctor allows it. Then, of course, like I said before, he escaped and he stabbed her in the gut, not the chest, the gut. And you know how it is in TV. Sometimes if you get stabbed in the gut, you get to survive and everything. So she lays there on the floor and we don't know if she dies or not. I'm hoping she's alive to bring her back. Dr. Rachel works at the insane asylum, and for the most part, she starts off as a pretty good person. But then it's mentioned by Laurel that, I heard y'all are running experiments on like people with powers and stuff, only for Rachel to deny it. So at some point in time, the zombie just ends up killing her. Waste of a character. They're wasting so many talented people. The zombie. So the zombie was a former student at Nevermore, and apparently his heart was bad, and he has the ability, similar to Xavier, to draw and make things come real. So he drew himself a mechanical heart. At some point in time, somebody ended up killing him and stuff, and they couldn't find his body, and supposedly it's buried under a tree that looks like a skull. So Pugsley went there, his powers reanimated him, and then Pugsley renamed him Slurp. So he basically starts like attacking people and eating their brains, and he's starting to get like his humanified body back. At some point in time, he makes a ruckus at the campus and starts eating that one camp counselor dude. And so he's sent to the insane asylum, where he later escapes, start eating some brains. And then he meets up with Gus. And Gus Stonehurst is a really interesting character, but not really. And so apparently they're old friends. How exactly? Well, Gus used to experiment on him and stuff. And he's a normie who later gained the ability of powers by experimenting on himself and somebody else. And the killer, the bad person of this season. And so that's how the zombie knows who Gus is, because he experimented on him and stuff. And then he later kills him. Gomez doesn't really have nothing to do, and he doesn't have a storyline. Gomez was barely in season 1, but at least he had a storyline. Here, he's just a loving father and loving husband and everything. Uncle Fester is back and more hilarious than what he was in season 1. He's still a bank robber and everything, but Wednesday needs his help. So she finds out through Christopher Lloyd's character that they need to find a guy named Gus, because he was like an Avery, hate saying that, at the school and stuff like that. And so if anybody can find this new killer, it could probably be him. Well, he's locked up in the insane asylum. So in order to get to him, they had to find a woman named Louisa or something like that, to find that of Wednesday's aunt, Ophelia. And so Fester ends up getting himself arrested at a spa. And the spa just happens to be the place where Bianca's mother is at, hiding. And gee, how convenient is that to cram them in the storyline? I'm telling you, like, they just literally crammed them in the storyline. So then he gets arrested, put in the insane asylum. He finds Gus. And so Gus Birds tells him, where to find like Louisa and everything. And so like he helps Wednesday like defeat the main bad person this season. And then he just goes off and everything. And he's still a bank robber. He's still using women. I can't believe that. But this, like, Fester has always been that really cool character in every version. And this one is just like so different and nuts. Bianca, they literally give her her own like subplot and storyline, and they find a way to cram it into the story. I don't understand why she just couldn't straight up help that of Wednesday. In fact, her and Wednesday only have less than 20 seconds of screen time, because instead the new headmaster, Barry Dort, he recruits her to start like enlisting the help of the parents and the grandparents and all like the former students that like donate money and stuff like that. He's up to something, but we don't know what. And I think because also he's blackmailing her because of the whole mom thing. So anyway, she's using her powers to get like donations and stuff like that, and bringing grandmama like back to the campus and everything. And she really has nothing to do with the rest of the story. But then because of her mom, that organization they was working with like last season, that went crazy. Now her mom's in hiding. She's using her powers to hide the mom at the spa. When Fester gets arrested, oh look, the cops just happened to find the mom and everything, only for her to bust the mom out. And then all of a sudden, her and Ajax overhear Dort like talking about something that makes them sound suspicious and everything. So they're trying to tie all this back together to somehow the main plot of the season. It don't make no sense. She should have been integrated better into the story. She's no longer a queen bee, and it's just, I don't know what the heck they're doing. Lurch does nothing as usual, just grunts and everything, and shows off his strength, and he's played by a completely different actor. When I saw him, I'm like, why does this dude look different for some reason? I couldn't figure out why until I researched it again because I forgot about it. They recast him. Enid's interesting this season. She's still perky, she's still happy, she still doesn't get along with Wednesday, only to get along with Wednesday. And so, like, on prank day, you literally think Enid is dead because she's laying in a puddle of blood, throat is slit, but it's literally just a prank. But there is somebody after her to get the Wednesday and stuff. And so Wednesday is trying her best to keep her alive. Because of this, she's not spending much time with Enid, and it's causing them to have friction between each other. However, Enid is, becoming really good friends with that of Thing. She treats Thing a heck of a lot better than that of the Addams family. And so, like I said before, she's with like Bruno. She breaks Ajax's heart and everything. And it turns out that her and Ajax end up getting kidnapped by the stalker, chained up and have tons of knives dangling from the ceiling. And so when Wednesday rescues them, it turns out it was just a prank to get closer to Wednesday because she has an obsessed fan who happens to be a student there. Now, like I said before, this new student causes kind of like a love triangle between her, Enid, and Wednesday. Even though they're not together, they're still friends, but they're making it seem more like they're more than just friends. Because Wednesday's the dark tunnel and Enid is the light at the end of the tunnel, and she literally says she can't live without her. Barry Dort, a pyrokinetic. He's suspicious. And he's the new headmaster and everything. He uses Bianca. There's just something suspicious about this dude, and we'll find out in the second part. Now, episode 3 is one of my least favorite, and it reminds me a little bit of the second Addams Family movie, Addams Family Values, where there's like this camp counselor, they're at a camp. So the students are all at a camp and they meet a bunch of normies. And the camp counselor there is like a drill sergeant. And that's how he runs his camp and everything. So they have to compete with Nevermore in order to stay on the land because they got overbooked. And so the normies lose and everything, and the camp counselor dude gets his brains eaten. But the dude is hilarious. Agnes, she is the super fan of Wednesday. Wednesday has her own girl group that's like a huge fan base, and Agnes can go invisible. She is obsessed with Wednesday so much that she kidnapped Enid and held her hostage just so Wednesday could rescue her so she can get closer to Wednesday. But Wednesday befriends her nevertheless because she needs her invisibility powers. This is causing a huge rift between her and Enid and everything. Now, the actress who plays Agnes is actually 16, the age everybody should be on this show. So it does look kind of strange when you have these grown adults playing teenagers, but then you have an actual teenager who looks like a little kid. Pugsley, this dude got tall within 2 seasons. He's supposed to be the younger brother of Wednesday, but he towers over her. And so he's been added to the show and he's at Nevermore Academy. Fans have speculated like what's his role gonna be and how much screen time he's gonna get. He doesn't spend really no screen time with that of Wednesday except for the first episode and I think maybe the last or the third episode, and that's about it. And it's like literally less than 5 minutes of screen time because they're mostly in the car when they're interacting. She does the whole, stay away from me, don't have no eye contact, nobody know we were related, stuff like that. But the thing is, these two never torture each other on screen as they've gotten older. They did when they was younger and in the flashbacks. The flashbacks are hilarious. Also, Pugsley is responsible for blowing Lurch up and discoloring his eye. Because apparently they got a completely different Lurch actor. And so like Pugsley is very happy-go-lucky. He's not sad. Wednesday, we don't see Wednesday torturing him, so we don't ever get to see him sad and depressed like the older versions. Pugsley has always been the one Addams Family member nobody cares about in past iterations and stuff. In the CGI movie, they tried to do a little bit more with him. And so here they're trying to do a little bit more with him, but giving him his own storyline that once again, just like Bianca, is crammed into the main storyline, but it really has nothing else to do with the rest of the story. But they found the way to cram it in somehow. Like I said before, he has electricity powers like Fester. They said that like Gomez is all like, oh, you got powers just like, my brother, and Pugsley's all like, yeah, I don't understand why it skipped the generation and everything. So that's the explanation as to why Gomez doesn't have no powers. It just skipped the generation. I was really hoping he was Fester's son, but he's not. And so I felt bad for the dude in the first couple of episodes, or at least the first one, because nobody wanted to be his friend. Nobody wanted to hang out with him. But then, with the whole zombie thing, finding that's when Eugene started talking to him more and stuff. And so him and Eugene were pretty much paired this entire season. But Eugene really can't really stand to be around him and everything because of his habits. He likes to eat bugs and dead rats and stuff like that, just like his father. Which is hilarious when you see those two get happy whenever they see a dead animal they want to eat. And so he really loves that zombie like a pet and everything. Only for the zombie to get taken away from him, and when it does, his story arc is pretty much just like over for now. So he really doesn't have anything to do, and they need to figure out like more stuff to do with him and stuff. Thing is here, and he's helping Wednesday out a whole lot more, but it turns out Thing had a birthday, and every Addams Family member forgot about it. Enid didn't know, but she still made him his own like little house in their dorm room. And he's in a box, different from his normal box from other incarnations and stuff. But it's cool they gave him the box to live in, just like in the other stuff. Turns out he doesn't really like being around the Addams family that much because they treat him like a servant and not a member of the family. And they have a bunch of flashbacks of classic, like, Addams family moments with Thing, of him pouring liquor for Gomez, cleaning up a mess that Morticia and like Gomez made, and also, holding the ball when Gomez is about to play golf and everything. So classic. But he hates that crap. So they said they're going to start doing more to make him feel more like the family and everything. He's loyal to that of Wednesday, but if Morticia gives him an order, he will obey it over Wednesday's authority and everything. And so he almost dies again in this season, but Enid was able to save him because Wednesday was not. Him and Enid is weird. Like, it'll be funny if the show ends and he just goes off to live with her. Christopher Lloyd, who played Fester in the movies, he makes a guest appearance as the longing living like professor there at the school. His head is severed and is inside a watery jar. And when you look at his face, it looks very CGI because, they had the CGI his face inside like the little glass jar thingy. It's weird, it's interesting. Hey, it's the Addams family, you know what I'm saying? Grandmama Funk, who's played by Joanna Lumley. So this is not Grandmama Addams. Like in other incarnations, this is the one from like the comics and stuff, where she's Morticia's mother. And so her and Morticia cannot get along. This version of Grandmama looks nothing like no other version I've ever seen before. She's supposed to be a short, plump hag, and instead she's like this glamorous looking slim woman. She owns her own mortuary and everything, and she has 2 daughters, Ophelia and that of Morticia. And she used to pin those 2 together against each other all the time growing up, like when they would play fencing and stuff. She is just nasty when it comes to that of Morticia, and you see why Morticia does not like her, but she loves Wednesday to death. And so most likely she'll have a bigger role to play in part 2 of season 2. Okay, so I think I figured out their race finally when it comes to the Addams family. They are in fact Cantilian, like it's been stated in the old black and white show. Now, what I got confused last time is that I thought Spain were Latinos. They're more like white Spaniards, Hispanics and everything. And so, like, this is why a lot of the Addams family, like, mannerisms and stuff they say tends to be, like, in Spanish nature and stuff. Also, like, in some of their names. Like, even though Ophelia is the sister of Morticia, it's more of a Greek name, but there is a Latino pronunciation of Ophelia and everything, which they kind of don't really say like in this way. So they do have that Spanish speaking stuff, but they're more like white Spaniards. It's just for this show, they've kind of swapped it in a way to where you have like Jenna and like I think the dude who plays her brother and father, they're like more Mexican, and I guess on like Morticia's side, they're more like the Spaniard type and stuff. Because they say that Morticia used to always fence her sister because her mother would pin them against each other. It is really confusing, especially because a lot of Americans assume that Spain is like a Latino country when it's actually not and stuff. It's confusing. Morticia has a lot more to do this season than she did last season. It was reported that Catherine Zeta-Jones was going to be in season 2 a whole lot more. And boy, they really crammed her in this show. She has multiple outfits and stuff. So, you know, when a character has multiple outfits, they're really trying to make you like them and stuff. She only wears her classic outfit in the first season, but they get a modified version with like a red, some red in it this season, but then they start changing it up. Now, the one look I don't understand is the third episode when she's at the camp and she's wearing like a black outfit with pants and a hat, and she has pigtails for some bizarre reason. This is probably because she's losing her daughter. She knows Wednesday's keeping something from her, and she later finds out it's the premonitions and the blood from the eyes and everything like that. She tells her daughter that, my sister was the same way, and she pushed her powers to the limit, and then grandmama did something, and her daughter has now been missing for over 20 something years. And so her and her sister could never really get along because of grandmama, and her mom can't get along. It's an interesting parallel because Wednesday resents her mother and Morticia resents hers and everything. But Morticia would do whatever it takes to keep her daughter safe, even taking Goody Adams' book and everything, which she later burns, and she wins the fencing duel with that Wednesday and stuff. Now, some people might be all like, well, fencing is a Gomez thing. True, but in other incarnations, we have seen, or adaptations, I should say, we've seen Morticia fence and everything. And so, she is a mother who's essentially grieving and everything. Her daughter's still alive, but her daughter wants nothing to do with her. I thought they patched things up last season, but I guess not. And so I am curious to know what is going to be in season 2, because Grandmama is going to be in there more. And of course, if this woman really is her sister, then she's going to be in there more. This version of Wednesday is a heck of a lot more darker than that of season 1. Her one-liners and jokes are way better than season 1. And she's constantly carrying weapons around when she's traveling around the world, setting off the alarms, the metal detector alarms in the airport. I don't understand something. If she's always carrying weapons on her, why, when she investigates stuff on campus, she doesn't bring her weapons with her? And we know that there are weapons on campus. That just don't make no kind of sense. But like I said before, she is honing her powers and increasing them and everything, which is causing her to bleed from her eyes black. And so, being a very independent type person, she doesn't want nobody to know. And she's still doing her manuscript writing thing that almost got burnt by that of Agnes, because Agnes was trying to flush her out. She's fascinated the fact that she has a stalker and trying to figure out who the heck it could be. All while trying to also solve these murders of why these birds are going around killing people and what that has to do with Tyler and Tyler's father. So she's on the investigation and everything. And this, of course, leads her to have that premonition about that of Enid dying, only for her mother to take the book from her, and somehow now she's unable to use her powers. A weird kind of retcon, but hey, whatever. And so she has no love interest this season, and when she sees Tyler, there's no feelings whatsoever, because Jenna Ortega did not like that. And so, of course, she always going around accusing people this and that, like the music teacher lady and stuff. Here's the odd thing about this season with Jenna Ortega's character. Last season, there are so many shots that could be freeze framed that are just the most beautiful, gorgeous, versions of Wednesday posing in her Wednesday type way, not blinking, looking mad, looking mysterious and everything. Here, not so ever. This season, she's just completely pissed off looking and stuff. There are no freeze frame moments this season that, you might want to use for a desktop or something like that, like there was in season 1. It's almost like Jenna or the creators just really didn't want her to be posable this season. And so they just wanted her to be straightforward and stuff. Now, like I said before, she still resents her mother and everything. And she really can't stand her mother this season. However, when she starts to investigate here and there, it leads her to Gus. It leads her to the insane asylum. And she finds out who this aviary person is. Why is Jody? Who the heck is that? Jody has literally just been in 2 episodes and barely has any screen time. She's like the assistant manager person at the insane asylum. And so there's no clues that made anybody suspect she might be the person going around killing people and stuff. It turns out that she's a normie. Her father is Augustus Stonehurst and everything. And so he's a normie too, but he experimented on his daughter with like normie DNA. Not normie. Oh, wait. He experimented on his daughter with that of Nevermore type student people DNA. And so it gave her the power to control birds. Then he experimented on himself. I don't know her real reason as to why she wants to kill people. She might have said it, but I don't really know. And so Fester ends up electrocuting her, and then she gets her brain sucked out by that of the zombie. And she's gone just like that. And it's just kind of like there was no build up to this killer. There was nothing suspenseful. You don't have any clues that it could be her because there's red herrings all throughout the show. It is one of the worst villain reveals I have seen in a long time, and I hate when they do this, when it's the villain and they barely have the villain in the show. Fans love to speculate and follow the clues and this and that, but they are unable to because nobody knows who this freaking character even is and stuff. So this was a huge letdown, and once again, the main bad person is a former child star and everything turned adult star. I forget the actress name, but she's been in at least 2 movies I reviewed. Scream 3 was one of them, and she was also in Scream 5. I can't think of her name at all. But yeah, it was just like a huge letdown. So that's season 2, part 1. It ends on a slight cliffhanger of Wednesday getting tossed out the window and falls several feet to the ground. Oh, is she dead? Is she alive? Of course she's alive. She's the main star of her own show. And so that was a dumb cliffhanger to end off on and everything. But of course Tyler has now escaped and whatever. And the zombies still roaming around, whatever. This is not as good as season 1. And if people say this is better than season 1, they are straight up lying. They are either huge stans or just I don't know, delusional or something like that. Season 1 was just awesome, and they dropped all 8 episodes at one time. Here, it just feels like a jumbled mess. They're trying way too hard with what little time they have. Alrighty, well, I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.